to In Frame. I am J. Lazarus Hawk, representing Rising Fire Productions today. My co-host and partner Jamie Hall was unable to be with us today, unfortunately. My guest today is Chad Allen Barton from Piano Man Pictures, director of Lights, Camera, Bullshit. How are you doing, Chad?
I'm doing fine.
All right, let's go ahead and jump right in. Lights, Camera, Bullshit is now a feature, was a short. You've recently wrapped principal photography.
Yes.
You had your wrap party last night.
Yeah, that was a lot of fun.
So there's the extremely condensed version.
Mm-hmm.
How was this journey? Let us know a little bit about what this is, what the movie's about, and you know how it came to be that you wanted to extend it into a feature.
Lights Camera basically started as we wanted to do the TV pilot, and from there it was all about what was going on in our lives at the time. Like it's basically like my story and Eric's story put together, of our journey through this ridiculous nature of filmmaking in Memphis. And so like the story started out as like a 40-minute TV pilot we were going to do, and it's Eric coming back from Puerto Rico, where he's been for 8 years, and it kind of paralleled his journey from after Born Hungry,
Mm-hmm.
when he kind of left the whole scene and he went out east and just tried to remove himself from the whole filmmaking process, just trying to like
Right.
regroup and figure out what he wanted to do. And so like he comes back to Memphis, making films, but he gets on at this production company as a job, and it's helmed by this over-the-hill, like 65-year-old man that probably had the same aspirations that he did once upon a time.
Right.
And he gets in there, and it's just full of the most ridiculous characters. It's people that you've seen in the filmmaking world. There's the super pretentious filmmaker that wants to do a close-up on a baby doll with a bunch of jelly on it as like the afterbirth, and it's like, oh, this is so much just about abortion and all that. And it's like
The pretentious artist.
and you've got the crazy, ridiculous prop master that's obsessed with like this. He has like this fruit fetish, and there's the DP.
Excellent.
This is the DP.
Come on in, have a seat.
This is the DP for the second 2/3 of the film that we
Second
added on.
2/3, and this is Eric Huber.
Eric
joining
Huber.
us.
How we going?
Nice to see you, man. Have a seat.
And so he meets Sebastian, the prop maker, and he meets Marcus Seabury's character is the overly paranoid filmmaker that thinks everybody's out to get him.
And I can already see how that would have worked.
Yes, Marcus is.
I
when
love Marcus.
When he came into audition, it was a really insane moment.
I actually sent him your way.
Yeah, and that was really good luck, because there were 4 or 5 people to audition for the part, and every single time I told them the story about my grandmother, that she walked outside one day to her car, and she opened the door, and there was a bag of CDs just sitting in her passenger side car, and someone had taken a shit in her driver's side seat, and she was convinced that it was some sort of terrorist plot, and she wanted the police to check under her car with like a mirror and make sure there's no bombs or anything in the car. I have no idea why she thought that. I told him this entire story, and he's like, that's kind of similar. When I went out to my car, someone had broken into it and left a pumpkin in the back seat, and I was like, you got the role. I have no idea why that would have happened to him. But yeah, he was absolutely perfect for the role. Graham Elwood plays the kind of meek, don't talk to me, I just want to shoot the stuff.
Right.
I'm behind the camera for a reason.
He's always eating something, right?
And he's always eating, too. He has an eating disorder. And so, yeah, that's the core makeup of the actual production team. And then Ron Gephardt, who teaches at Southwest,
Right.
he teaches acting. He's been in multiple things. absolutely amazing. He plays the owner of the company, and he's out of this world. Great actor. He plays like.
So he's one of
some-
Memphis's top stage actors.
Oh yeah.
He pulled some 14-hour days with us.
Oh yeah.
Wow.
It's crazy. Multiple, like quite a
That's
few.
rare dedication.
And yeah, he could outlast the crew members in the cast that was 20 years old. Like he would keep going. He'd remember all of his lines. It's insane.
It's good to have people like that, though. Like I said, that kind of dedication,
You don't
especially on a project where there is little to no money,
Yeah.
and you are working for the next crap meal that they're going to hand you, whether
Exactly.
that's pizza, hamburger, or
Mhm.
although I give you credit, on your set the day I was there, you had chili.
Yeah.
So at least you're giving them something hearty and nutritious.
We tried to as much as we could, as much as the budget permitted. Because like the first part that we did, we raised $2,000, and that was it. And a lot of people would raise $5,000 for a short that was 20 minutes, and this was 40 minutes. And then for the second half, we only raised another $2,500. We ended up getting.
See, now I'm already
More,
jealous because
really.
when I did my happy hour campaign, I raised exactly $1,000. And you print scripts.
It's a little range right there, 1,000, 2,000.
But that's.
You
we
print
can
out
get some
scripts
pics
for
of it.
everybody. You do any kind of marketing at all, any kind of promotional stuff, and there's your $1,000.
$1,000. It's already gone.
It is gone.
You haven't even stepped on a set yet. It's gone.
So is the total budget on this project really $4,500?
No, because you've got to count in all the money I spent too. So it's,
That was the next
So
question,
it's
actually.
more like $6,500.
Okay.
And if you want to include the rap party we had last night, that was another like $300. So.
And all the crew members have their own gear that they've bought.
I was
Exactly.
going to say, you guys work a lot like we do, where it's a pretty tight-knit group of people all who bring their time as well as their equipment and their
Everything's
efforts. to it.
self-contained,
So it's-
yeah.
Watching you, I think that was the only time I've seen you actually on set working.
Mhm.
But I was very comfortable on your set. And, I mean, I wasn't very involved at all by any means, but watching you work made me comfortable because it did remind me of working with the crew of people I tend to put together. And, of course, there's crossovers in our crews with Charlie Metz, who's just always fantastic to have on set. And
And at the rap party.
apparently, from the photos I've seen on Facebook, probably entertaining at your rap party as well.
Yeah.
Oh
I
man.
have one before a shirt came off.
Oh,
I'm
yeah.
gonna upload. I haven't uploaded it yet.
Oh, that would be
Pre-shirtless.
Pre-shirtless Charlie
Charlie
Metz.
Metz.
Mhm.
That was just as entertaining because his shirt was wet before that. I don't know how it always got wet, but it stayed perpetually wet until we took it off. But yeah, it was weird that you came on set that day. That's one of the few days that we had, 20 extras and 4 or 5 main principal cast there.
Right.
And that was my first experience working with something that large.
Really?
Yeah, I've never done
They
anything
had
that big.
guns and weapons and a car.
Well, I was going to say, for a fairly complex scene from what I saw, and I don't want to give anything away by saying too much, that's your discretion, but
Go ahead.
watching 20 or 30 people running around in masks of presidents,
Mhm.
and I think they were all presidents, if I'm not mistaken.
Yeah.
Carrying handguns and machine guns and running across the street at each other and waving fists and, doing the rage thing towards each other. Watching you choreograph that whole thing in the time I was there, you looked comfortable. And, I mean, again, going back to having a crew that you can have that kind of reliance on, that communication with,
Trust.
does make it a lot easier when you can trust them to do their jobs.
Exactly.
And, that's the same thing that led me to work with pretty much the consistently same group of people I work with. It's what it's what has led me to reach out and start to pay attention, observe, or interact with other filmmakers that I see actually doing something what I, by my own opinion, find real. Putting their efforts out there, not just going out and having fun.
Mhm.
That's a part of it.
Yeah.
But doing it with a goal and doing it with every part of their being. Because I know, from seeing you come over to do sound recordings with Liren, to, reading your posts on Facebook to watching you work, you had to live and breathe this project to get it done. And there's a lot of people out there that don't realize how much it really takes to make even a short film, let alone a feature. Now, when Eric stepped in, you mentioned cinematographer on 2/3.
Yeah.
The second 2/3.
Mm-hmm.
I happen to know you had a large gap between your filming scenes, so to emphasize how much you would have had to live and breathe this project, tell us a little bit about how you filmed, what the waiting period was, and how that was, what that was like to just have to endure, if
Yeah.
nothing else,
Yeah.
and what it's like to now be where you are.
Okay, so let's go back to the story for a second. In the first third, he meets these people at this production company, and then from there he goes out and does projects with them, and he's supposed to do like a 30-second or a minute spot for like a grassroots political thing that's, I guess, to try to, it's supposed to be like an anti-abortion commercial
Like a
that goes,
campaign or something?
yeah, that goes horribly wrong, and then there's supposed to be supposed to be a TV spot that's trying to promote like racial unity, and of course it ends up being like horribly racist. And,
Right.
and so the whole time Eric's supposed to basically just, he's supposed to be learning from these people how to do it. That's what Ron says before he goes out. He says, try to learn something if you can while you're out there. And so he goes through all this. Only thing that he learns is that he can't trust most of these people. And what ends up happening is this B plot line of this presidential gang that roams the streets of Memphis comes into it, and they kind of interject into the third act of what would have been the 40-minute piece, and they end up killing Abraham Lincoln, which was supposed, he was a part of the racial unity piece. He was a black Abraham Lincoln, and they kill him, and they kill Graham's character, the meek cameraman, in this alleyway. And so, I mean, even though Eric's only known these people for so long, I mean, it's you've still been working with these people over the course of a day. You get to form some sort of bond with them.
Right.
Kind of messes with you. And so that happens, and that kind of ends the second third, where the
A more somber ending.
yeah, Ron kind of throws the keys to Eric, and he's like, you're in charge now. These people screwed up big time. Try to do what you can, and that's the sort of what we made that
It's gonna be a
become
pilot, right?
Yeah, because originally it was supposed to end with Graham didn't die, and he was just supposed to, he gets the keys, and then now the rest of the story would take place in later episodes. But we augmented it so that Graham did die, and it would further this other story that goes on with Gerard and his family, where he's apparently left his wife.
Now,
And
Gerard is Eric's character?
Gerard is Eric's character.
Okay.
He's the main character, and he's left his family in Puerto Rico because he's trying to make his film career. He thinks he can do it in a short amount of time, and he wants to try to prove to his wife that he can do it. And so he tells her that he's actually going to Hollywood to do all this, when realistically he can't afford all that. So he comes back to Memphis and tries to do it by himself. And she gives him a call at the end of the first 40 minutes, and that's when you realize, like, oh, he has a wife and kid that he's basically abandoned to come try to do this. And so that's where it was going to leave off. And I was talking with Eric probably 2 or 3 months after that, and I was like, this is great and everything, but I don't feel like we have anywhere to take it. Like, you know, we did this whole thing. It's like you don't plan that far ahead really when you're doing a piece, especially.
Well, the nature of, if you're creating something that's meant to be an ongoing series, you have to leave that open-ended.
Yeah, yeah, and that was fine, but it was also like, well, we made a pilot for a series. Where do we take it now? I've always really wanted to do a feature anyway. And I started planning for another idea for a feature and all that stuff, and Eric was like, "Why don't you've already got 40 minutes or something? Why don't you just put more onto it, make it a complete story, and make it a feature?" And we had wrapped in February or March or something, and so this was.
There were pickups, though.
Yeah,
Right.
yeah. But this was, you know, May when I was talking to him about this, and I was like, "Yeah, let's do it." And so I wrote another, what was it, 60 pages or 50 pages or something, and then we went from there. And yeah, I mean, the real challenge was how do we tie the first part into this part. There's so much time in between. The actors have kind of distanced themselves from the roles. How do you bring
Right.
it back into the fold? And so I kind of thought, well, we had this office that we constructed. There's no way that we can get back in there and construct it again. We don't have the money to do that anyway. Because we built this office in this big blank room. We
Been
built
to the Emerge building?
Yeah,
The
and-
Tennessee
Right,
room?
right.
And, you know, we constructed 4 or 5 walls, built separate rooms into this place, put, you know, a door in there and all this, and, you know, it was like heavy production design for that, and there's no way we were going to reconstruct it. And so I was like, well, we're sort of like theoretically burning down this whole thing and starting over anyway, so let's just burn down the office in the script and start over. And so that's what happened. And I decided, you know, if we're gonna burn down, basically, you know, separate the first third from the second 2/3, I kind of want to go in a different direction with the way it's shot too. It's not to say I didn't like what Shelby Baldock and Patrick Chervis, who you had Patrick on your show before.
I think so.
That was a while ago. Not to say I didn't like anything they were doing. They were great. The stuff from the first third looks amazing. But I felt like we needed to completely separate ourselves from what we did before.
Right.
When we wakes up in a new day, it's shot completely differently from there on out.
And that's where
Eric comes in.
All right, we're gonna take a short cutaway,
Mhm.
and when we come back, I'd like to talk with Eric a little bit about what it's like to come in on something like this, you know,
Mhm.
that's been started like that.
Yeah.
But let's go ahead and take a cutaway. We'll be right back with you in just a moment.
Rising Insurance Against Bad Acting. Be sure you know what you're doing, the choices you're making. You
What is on right now? I have no idea what we're watching. I don't know what this is, but it's hilarious. Anybody be bad at
Don't like you're hanging
They
out.
just put it on TV these days.
I know. It's like somebody's.
this conversation about you. Rising Fire. Insurance Against Bad Acting. Be sure you know what you're doing, the choices you're making before you step on the set.
Are we better, or do we need to take a cutaway again? All right, welcome back. We're gonna pick up where we left off. A third, 2/3 of a project shot, months of rewrites.
Yeah.
You're gonna jump back in with a different look.
Mhm.
How did you find Eric?
I had worked with Eric for a long time before this.
And I was
And
on set every day with the first third.
Okay.
he was
Yeah.
the location manager for the first third, proving that you can fail upwards in filmmaking.
Yeah.
Even in Memphis.
Yeah. And then doing like production assistant type stuff when needed. Like I think I was slating a lot of it, and it got
Yeah.
to where people said the movie title the way I would say it to slate it, and they could hit the keys, the notes right, however I was saying it. I forget. But yeah.
And we had worked on a short of mine that started out as a class project, and I don't consider anything like a class project, so I didn't approach it from that mentality. I was like, this is something I want to be able to show.
I think that's important.
Yeah.
That you take everything you do
Yeah, I don't
equally serious.
Yeah, I mean, I don't want it to be like, well, this is just an exercise. No, this is a story I want to tell. There's no reason for me to do an exercise. And so I brought Eric in to shoot on that, and it was called Supposed to Be This Way. I had Dan Reed in it. Dan Reed's also, well, everybody's in LCB. I pulled in, like, there's
Well, we have
60
a
actors.
fairly small, consistent group of actors in town.
Yeah.
That will work.
Yeah.
And get out there. So
Mhm.
I'm sure we'll see a lot of familiar faces.
Yes, a lot. I think we pulled almost everybody into this film. And
Don Myers, it's supposed to be this way.
Don Myers was also in Supposed to Be This Way. Don Myers is in everything though, so that's not.
I was
really
going to say,
saying
Don Myers, it's not a Memphis movie if Don's not in it, I don't think.
Yeah, so he was in it, and
We
Lauren
shot that in 2 days.
shot that in 2 days. Lauren Scott was in it,
Mm-hmm.
which is a theater actress. She moved to Chicago a couple
Yeah,
months ago.
Right. I think my schedule prevented me from actually making it into a shot, or by being late. I can't remember which it was. Either I got there late or I had to leave too early for you to use me on that shoot. But
Yeah. But it was it was sort of like a sequel to something else I'd done called Am I. It was like kind of experimental psychological drama thing, and Supposed to Be This Way ended up being about a man who kept hearing people in his house at night, and it was over a series of 3 different nights, him experiencing these weird moments. And it was like Don Myers was the old man
Right.
that was in his house, and he was like, what is going on?
Now, I've seen Emma. I saw it at the Indie Memphis 2 years ago?
I think so. 2 years ago, yeah.
I think it was 2 shows ago.
Mm-hmm.
I was very impressed with it. It's, rare that I see a film done on the budgets we have in this town, with the talent we have in this town, and the issues of sound, which I understand we're having even with this show, because
Yeah.
we are doing a live show in a business, so we have an open door, so we're
Yeah.
hearing every car, planes, trains, all
That's
that.
good. This is a
goes
good
on.
venue, though.
So, well, it's all about venue.
Yeah.
But with all of that, it can be very smothering.
Mm-hmm.
But back to the topic, Eric.
Mm-hmm.
Coming in on something that's, you were there for it, so you know the
Yeah.
idea. How did you make a decision on how you were going to change this? How did you work with Chad to get that different quality?
More wide shots. We had
That was key.
those letting things play out longer. We're big fans of the art directors, and Wes Anderson letting things play out in single
Right.
shots and finding these. We'd
Steve
watch.
McQueen.
Yeah, we'd watch big movies that we liked and would wait and count how many actual these close-ups happened. And it's because we have these DSLR cameras and we can move them around and move them
Right.
and get close to people. And it's just they never did that, and it causes a different look. And so yeah, pulling things back, letting them play out in wide shots, more
And that's
elegant cutting. I guess.
that's something we were talking about too. Is a lot of these movies that are getting shot on DSLR, everybody loves close-ups because you get these really nice lenses.
Because
and
they're
you get
they're
and
very
it's-
pretty.
and it's great.
And a lot of the steady cam or handheld where you're moving around the whole place. Like we would do a lot of handheld stuff, but I was basically being a tripod and just giving it the camera some life
Right.
while we're moving around. I mean, while I'm standing still.
Yeah. And so the idea was move away from close-ups because you want to try to give it more production value. More like wide shots give more production value, whereas close-ups it's almost like you have to do that because you don't have the money
Right.
to
because
show a wider
you
shot.
don't have an environment or you don't have a full set or something.
And
to
so
do that.
we tried to incorporate environments that would allow us to do that. Then we wouldn't have to spend quite so much money, but we did want to spend some money on production design.
There was
Try to give us
there's one shot where it's after Eric's character is walking around Beale and he comes back. So you find out it's his family's house that they're staying in right now, and he goes in the backyard and passes out in a hammock. And while we're storyboarding it or shot listing it, it's like, let's do it in one. You know,
Yeah.
we both said it, let's do it in one shot. And we got to use my dad's house out in Bartlett. And it's on the golf course, so it has like a nice slope. And we could get behind the fence where there's like a area before the ditch that keeps you
Right.
out of the golf course. And we set up there so we could see the whole backyard. And we used every light that we had, all of them. And then my dad's like house lights, flipping stuff on, finding out what else we could use. And we spent like 2 hours lighting it, and Eric was the only actor there, and he's been hanging out the whole movie anyway. So
Yeah.
he just waited for us, and we got it lit for after that 2 hours, and did this shot, and it's like this moonlit nighttime photography, which you're starting to see more in feature films. I noticed like scenes playing out at night, because that's hard to do, and
Yeah.
for it to look normal, for
Yeah.
you to just accept it like, oh, this is something at night.
Right.
In low lighting, that takes a lot. Like it was in those last few Harry Potter movies that everything plays out in these night scenes, and you're like, oh, this is cool, this is nice, but
We've done
hard
several night shots
to
that
make it look like
it really is a
moonlight,
very, very fine line between
and not like a '80s Eastwood movie where it's a blue light coming in from the left side or something.
Mhm.
But yeah, so a lot of those, and
But-
then Eric started to have fun with it. He was jumping around.
But the thing those Harry Potter movies have that we don't is that they have 10K lights, and they can light wide shot, and that's the problem we were facing. We had to push ISO still, even with 6-7 lights with like
Mhm.
4 650s and 2 1Ks, and
We even hid little tap lights by the stairs where he was walking, just so you'd get like a little wash on his legs when he came down the stairs. You could just, so he just disappeared less
yeah.
into the dark.
Nice. So now, did you rent lights, or is this all equipment owned by crew?
Well, very very kind man, Tom Pollard, who he's made a couple of shorts.
We worked on one with him
Yeah.
last year.
And he did one called The Garden that went to Cannes actually, and
I think was Don in
Don
that?
was in that,
I think I've seen that.
and he was in the scene.
Was Don in there?
He was in the scene. It was like a Last Supper scene, but there
He
was
was
like,
like
an
the
Easter
psychotic
bunny.
priest
Yeah.
or something like that.
And he was really nice, and he gave us an ARRI kit to use, like a $3,000 ARRI kit to use, and we used it for the entire second 2/3 of the film, and
Every
we,
day.
we
Very
couldn't
nice.
we couldn't have done it without it.
That's almost better than the monetary donation.
Exactly.
Oh, yeah.
That would have been better than the
If
three.
people could just
$3,000.
give us stuff.
Yeah.
Great.
Well,
Yeah, we'll barter.
one of the things, it's funny you say that, one of the things we've done as a production company is very much the same thing, is, who do we know? Who can we do favors for? Who owes us a favor?
Mhm.
How can we work some sort of deal that benefits everybody? And money never has to become the barrier or the hurdle that you have to overcome in order to create something that has some level of production value.
Yeah.
MI, for instance, is MI on the YouTube page?
It is.
Are we able to play it at all? No? Okay, well, unfortunately, we can't do that, by
Yeah.
the way. But I was very impressed by it, like I said earlier, because it didn't look like a Memphis independent film production, or any independent film production that we're used to seeing at this level.
Mhm.
Which, because we have no money, many of us are out there, we don't have lights. We don't have proper sound. Some of us accept that. Many of us don't realize what the difference is until we actually see someone, a compatriot in the industry, doing it themselves. So, we added Greg Gray, to drop names, to our crew, and that upped our production value. Now what we do is we try to show other people how they could raise their production value, and it isn't always money.
Mhm.
it is having the wherewithal to know who you've worked with, who do you know, what are they capable of, and that kind of support, you know, where they're willing to come out and sit on your set, where they're willing to lend you whatever piece of equipment they might have. That kind of support is far more valuable than somebody just throwing money, as much as money is useful.
But it's asking a lot of some people. Like, you're asking if you could, like, can I borrow your camera, because it's a full frame camera and I have a crop sensor camera. That's a $3,000 camera. I mean, and that's, for a lot of them, that's how they make money too.
Yeah,
so
it's everything.
It's beyond giving you something that's $3,000. That's how I make my money too.
Yeah.
So, you know, if that breaks, even if it's not your fault, you know, you feel absolutely terrible.
I was going to say, having responsibility for the $3,000 light kit probably created a certain
Yes,
shakiness to it. I know when we often will borrow pieces of equipment from Greg when he's unable to join us. And, you know, I watch Kent because he handles most of it, and, you know, there really is a subtle difference between how he handles someone else's things versus how I watch him handle his own. And, I mean, he's very careful with his own, but I guess because he knows what his equipment is for him, and, you know, this is Greg's livelihood.
Yeah.
This is his job.
Yeah.
So he'd be taking off of his plate, as it were. So he definitely changes how he handles things. And it is nerve-wracking to have that kind of responsibility, but as I said, at the same time, to know that someone believes in you that much. We did a shoot Saturday morning, and the lady we were filming for called a neighbor and asked to borrow a handgun. This man came over and brought 3 pistols with him. And these are legitimate, you know, one was a .38, one was, I don't know my weapons at all, but one was like a .40 caliber or something similar to that, and then he had this little .22 that we ended up using. And he came over, he put the thing on the table, we said, that's the one we want to use. We really only needed it for less than 10 minutes of a shot.
Yeah.
He set it on the table, walked out, and went back to his house and left it with us. So, you know, not that exactly.
Yeah.
That's a lot of trust, and this is someone we never met.
Yeah.
He did this for the woman we were filming for because it's his neighbor.
Yeah.
But, you know, look at me. Am I the type of person you just hand your handgun to? You don't know anything about me? I mean, you know me well enough to know I'd be fine with it.
Yeah, you're not going to go on a shooting spree.
But not your average person. So, you know, that kind of responsibility, very heavy,
Yeah.
but that kind of belief, that kind of trust.
Yeah.
And that is kind of the fuel we continue on. So, you know, I'm getting way off topic, but coming in, now you've been promoted cinematographer.
Yep.
Had to be a good feeling, give you a little bit more freedom on set. What's it like working with Chad?
It's good. We've been making movies parallel to each other, then work on each other's stuff for a few years now. And I guess what brought, like, cynical sense of humor we all share. And we're also not afraid to tell each other when they're doing something stupid. And we just all understand it's to make this work better.
That's
go
important.
faster.
Yeah.
And so, yeah, it was always, and everybody has their, like, moments when they get goffed up and human for a moment.
Well, it happens.
We come back around and, yeah, you know, some chili.
God forbid that my cinematographer is prepared and ready to shoot, and for some reason I'm not. Because he's very quick.
Yeah.
We're ready to go. We have a schedule. Let's go.
Mm-hmm.
And I need that.
Yeah.
We all need that. I mean,
Yes.
that's why there's someone there telling you it's
Yeah.
time to shoot.
Time to go move along.
My AD was great for that, by the way.
The lack of ego
Yeah.
on a set can often be very difficult. It's, you know, asking people to set aside ego
Mm-hmm.
to believe in your vision, as it were. How did that experience go? Now, I know a lot of the people you worked with, so I can guess by and large you didn't really encounter too much in the way of ego problems. But has that been in the past experience you've had behind the camera, where you know you and a cameraman you've hired or have tried to work with just do not get it, just don't have that
Just
connection?
don't click.
Yeah, we hooked up so early on that we were always kind of all working on each other's stuff. But I guess there were a handful of times when people you didn't really know that you were working with, or maybe it's more in like commercial work.
Yeah.
When we're out in the field or something, and like there's other cameramen that you don't know there, and it's just
Right.
they don't have the same sense of humor or the know-how, and like
And the communication is completely different at
Yeah.
that point.
Oh yeah.
Mhm.
So, I mean, you lose a lot of the chemistry
Yeah.
that
Yeah.
ends up fueling that creative process.
Mhm.
I mean, speaking about like egos on set, the person who has to drop their ego first and the most is the director,
Absolutely.
because yeah, there is that hoity-toityness of like, well, I wrote this and I'm the director, and you have to realize that in the grand scheme of things, you're no longer that important. Everybody else is. Everybody else is making this, and
You put it together.
you put it together, but they're here now doing it. And
Yeah.
and on our level, you're doing it for free.
Exactly, and that's, I mean,
And
the
that-
fact that you're out there doing it for us to begin with is an honor.
Yeah.
The fact that you'll do it for free
Yeah.
Mhm.
is above and beyond.
Yeah, and that's something I have to keep in my mind a lot, more with the crew than the actors, because with the actors, 90% of directing is casting. I wholeheartedly believe that. I feel like once I've casted you, I've entrusted you to take this character and do what you will with it, as long as it doesn't divert
Well,
so
one-
far from the character arc.
One of the things I've said to actors, mostly in the coaching capacity in our classes and stuff like that, is that you're hired to do a job. You should be capable of that job. You shouldn't have to be coddled by the director at that point. If you need to be coddled, if you need to be bench shaped and trained into a role, then you should be in classes. If you are taking classes and you're truly growing and you're prepared to take on a role, you should be able to deliver that role. And that is, like you said, that ability as a director to see the one you want, to know that that's the right person for that position,
Mhm.
is a huge, huge part of that, because you do have to believe in them. You do have to believe that this character you saw in your head, that you applied to paper, can be brought to life and given breath by the person you see in front of you.
And you also have to be willing to compromise what you thought initially, like a lot.
And that's where, as you said, the director being the first person who has to let go of ego is, that's where that comes into play.
Yeah.
And, you know, I've said numerous times, as a guitar player, you can pick up your guitar and you can make a song. As a piano player, sit at a piano and make a song. As a painter, pick up a brush and paint.
Yeah.
As a filmmaker, you can't do anything without a bunch of people.
Yes.
And that's a burden, an artistic burden
Mhm.
on writer-directors.
Yeah.
But it also is a great way to learn very quickly the importance behind letting go of your ego.
Mhm.
Because if you want to tell your story, the story is what has to be on the pedestal,
Yeah.
not the filmmaker
Yeah.
or
Mm.
the cinematographer
Yeah.
or the lead actor or actress, which is often where you see the ego, is on the, front of the camera side.
And, I mean, the lead, they do get to have some ego. That's fine.
Well,
To
they
me,
need some.
They need some. You have to have that presence, or else
Exactly.
you're not the lead. And so, I'm completely fine with having some temper tantrums or whatever from the lead actor. I know that comes with it. But getting back to like the molding and the shaping some actors need or want, you can, I think as a director, you do all of your directing in rehearsal. After that, once you get out there and get ready to go,
This is
no.
this is Memphis film community. Rehearsal?
And we didn't get as much as I wanted either. I mean, we got maybe
Very often you get none.
Very often you get none, and a lot of the times I didn't get any. I'd say probably half of the scenes from this part. I got to rehearse. And some of that has to do with the fact that the scenes are too big. It's hard to...
Well, you're working against people's schedules, too.
Exactly.
You know, I don't know what you do specifically to earn a living, but, you know, with my injury, I'm unemployed.
Yeah.
This is what I do.
Mm-hmm.
That's not everybody's luxury. And, you know, if you've got a cast of 7 people, and they've all got day jobs, or night jobs, or whatever else, trying to just get those actors together to where you can even discuss the scene
Yeah.
as a group
Yeah.
is hard enough. Because we don't have the money to support that. We don't have the ability to say, take a few vacation days, we'll pay you for them.
Yeah.
You know, if we had that luxury, maybe we'd have our rehearsals. But I'm impressed that you were able to put together any rehearsals, really.
Yeah, I mean, but like the big presidential scenes in like the second 2/3, there's no way to rehearse them. There's, you know, 7, 8, 9 people, and you don't have a rehearsal space that big anywhere for free.
Right.
So you just kind of have to tell them through Facebook messages or try to meet up with them if you can and try to talk about the scene.
And just
But
like break it down clearly when you're actually shooting it.
as
the
much,
way we-
as much as you can.
You saw that battle scene that day is we just have them, all right, this take, y'all run this way. Action.
Right.
Try to
This
break it
take,
down as
y'all
simple
run
as you
that
can.
way, yeah. And so
Good.
there's, okay.
But because of that, you don't get, in those bigger scenes, you don't get to have sustained takes.
Yeah.
You do have to break everything down, and it's something that, like, we didn't really want to do, but you have to do it.
Well, I noticed, and I'm horrible with names, and I can't remember where I saw which face. I know he was behind camera. I know Charlie Metz was behind camera running around doing a number of things,
Yeah.
and that Eric was in front of camera and all that.
Mhm.
But when you have that much to coordinate, and you have a crew you can count on, it goes a lot more fluid.
Mhm.
And I noticed you had someone standing there, I think that had a clipboard,
Yep.
and basically had your shot list written out, ready to go,
Mhm.
which, you know,
We had two
I rarely
people-
give my own cinematographer that, so kudos there. I'm sure he wishes I would more often, but
And we had
you
2
know.
people inside doing hospitality
Yeah.
because we had 30 people.
We're having
Correct.
a feed,
Mm-hmm.
so that was fun.
And that's how we found a location is,
Oh,
I was just going to mention,
Yeah.
I've forgotten about the people inside doing hospitality
That was
because
she
I
saw us
arrived on set
outside, yeah.
about an hour and a half late, I think.
Mhm.
And I saw a commotion going on with your craft services table and some of your props and things you had all set to the side. And my first impression was, well, they're going to be shooting that way. They need to get them out of their line of shot.
Mhm.
And they walked across the street and started going in a building. About that time, someone came over and said, "Can you believe this? Somebody just walked out of that building, saw what we were doing, and told us we can go inside and set up our table and eat lunch in there and
And it was
hang
huge,
out
and
in
it-
there
and
because
it was
it's
cold.
warm, and of course you're filming in the rain."
Cold and raining, that's
Yeah,
right.
it was
raining.
40 degrees
I was going to
outside.
say it was just under 40. It was rainy, off and on anyway.
Mhm.
Yeah.
And, you
They
know,
were
you're out
driving
there.
those pylons down on Mud Island.
So
Whatever they're building,
So every 15 minutes.
and you could walk around the corner if you wanted to watch water boil and watch the pylon slowly go into the ground until they set the crane up on the next one. Like,
And
hurry
then
up
bang,
and
bang,
shoot.
bang
Yeah.
again. I do
Mhm.
remember that. I think I actually commented on the sound
Mhm.
being a, you know, that's a new one.
Yeah.
I think was my
That's
comment.
new.
Because
Yes.
I'm used to the trains, the planes, the
Mhm.
automobiles,
The
the
dogs.
Harleys, the barges, the geese. I mean, we can go on for a while if we had to, but the
Pylon
construction
drivers.
site, that
That was new. We had no
I mean,
idea.
you had that constant rhythmic, and it was not quiet. I mean, the echo across the river.
Oh, yeah.
Mhm.
I mean, it might as well have been, just, you know, bang, 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 bang. 'cause you
Construction
get that-
workers on a Saturday, I never would have thought, but, you know, I thought they got off for the weekend.
You
But
know,
I guess not.
I expect construction sites. I don't expect construction in Memphis.
Yeah.
That's true, too.
And then when we got that location, So we got to eat there, but then
Yeah.
they looked upstairs, and it's this beautiful scene for this warehouse scene that we had to do, and it's an old, I think it's like a Masonic building,
Yeah,
something like that, but it
it's
just
a
has
printing
this
press.
printing press, and upstairs was this unfinished attic, but one partition of it was this finished like office room, lounge bed,
Strange.
like an apartment really.
Yeah,
it
so
had
it
like
had a
a-
kitchen island in it.
Yeah.
But and then since we were doing this wide shot stuff, we're out in the attic facing that room which had glass windows looking into the office, looking out to the unfinished attic.
Yeah, that was insane.
And we've gotten to where we like to, how long can you wait to say cut?
Yeah.
And the actor's still doing something, and this guy
And
Teddy.
you just don't tell
Well,
him.
you mentioned Wes Anderson earlier, and I
Yeah.
know a lot of his.
Yeah.
Of course, my favorite, David Lynch. There's a lot
Yes.
like that.
Yes.
Mhm.
Right on back to Ingmar Bergman.
Yep.
Who did a lot of just lingered
Yeah.
shots.
Yeah, and
Great.
one of my favorite things to do is don't tell the actors when you're going to cut. See what they're going to do, and I mean, sometimes it gets a little staged when they know you're going to do it, so
Right.
you have to kind of change it up a little bit. But yeah, I mean, like there was that one shot where it was the final shot of the scene, and Teddy's walking over these boards through the attic, and this long shot that we had the lighting stage and everything, where the lighting was going to go out one by one as he was walking across these boards over back towards that glass area where the weird kitchenette thing was set up. And he walked in front of these windows, and he just started walking. He didn't know what he was supposed to do when he got over there. He just thought I was going to call cut when he was over there. We just waited, and he just kept going, and he walked in front of these windows, and it's all lit by daylight from the other side.
So he's
and
silhouetted.
you still see him,
Nice.
and he's silhouetted, and he walks all the way across. And then I was like, no, you said it. You said
He needs to pick up a hammer.
there was a hammer already sitting in the window.
Because they're interrogating somebody.
They're
Okay.
interrogating
He's going back
someone.
to interrogate him, and
That's what it ended up becoming. Yeah.
I don't know. We've all probably have some different movie in our head where we've seen that shot where he
Right.
walks across and picks up his thing to go thing somebody with it.
One of my favorites is always De Niro in
Things.
The Untouchables.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
Because not so much the grabbing of the thing or doing, but that last shot where it's above the table and you're pulling up and you just see the blood play out across the table.
Mhm.
Mhm.
So I get what you're saying, where we all have that one thing that we think when we see that shot or
Mhm.
something.
When he's gonna go thing the thing.
When you're going to
Thing to
them
thing.
with the-
But you got this location,
Mhm.
literally, just happened
Happenstance.
to you as you were there.
Because we're shooting out in Memphis, and
We-
it's still kind of it's new when they see the indie people with as much organization as we've tried to. So they see like a simple machine starting to work there, and they're kind of impressed, and they want to help.
Yeah.
In Memphis,
She
I
was
think,
so nice.
Yeah, I think I've heard Craig Brewer talk about it in some talks. Where if you're in LA shooting somewhere, they have a chart. It's like, what's your budget?
Exactly.
This is how much it'll
This is how much
cost.
it'll cost you
Yeah,
to come in
exactly.
here.
And here, people, they just own these buildings and like, yeah, sure.
We've
whatever.
noticed that a lot ourselves.
Mhm.
We talk a lot about incentives in Tennessee. You know,
Mhm.
as filmmakers, we hear a lot about incentives, and of course, Tennessee does not have the best
Mhm.
incentives for filmmakers. But our philosophy has been those types of people. Establish that kind of relationship, and you have a location for free. Now you don't have to put that in your budget.
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
If you have a budget, where can you put the money you saved into your production?
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
If you don't yet have a budget,
Mhm.
how much did you just knock off of a budget by having someone like that offer you a location?
Yeah.
You mentioned corporate work or
Yeah.
commercial work.
Mm-hmm.
Are you guys actually an active production company doing...
We get hired out, and
Yeah.
we want to make it legit, but a lot of us are still in school right now,
Yeah.
so we can't make that jump to go full-time at it. And we're starting to build enough like regular clients and word of mouth here and there. And we shot some Jack Purtle's fried chicken commercials that are running
Nice.
on TV
Nice.
here lately. Yeah, and that's fun. And so just I guess it'll slowly pick up, and ideally the time will synchronize where we can do that and try and make our movies on the weekends.
Yeah.
And try until the movie thing starts to pay or something like that.
Yeah.
Well, there is a lot of
Maybe.
space in the Memphis community for production companies to become
Mhm.
commercial companies.
Yeah.
Of course, there's the big ones out there like Running Pony and V2,
Mm-hmm.
Mm-hmm.
but a lot of the smaller businesses can't afford that kind of a budget.
Exactly.
Yeah.
So when they can see a local production team like you guys or like us or something like that
Yeah.
that do take it serious,
Mhm.
that will bring the same passion to their project set as you will bring to your own production.
For a half or a third of what
Mhm.
they're charging.
For the cost cut.
And they just have to. They won't get as many paper forms from us
Right.
as they would from a commercial.
But there's a
place.
straight transaction
Yeah.
that's old school
Mhm.
about that.
Mm-hmm.
And when you do present a quality product, which I know you guys are capable of, I've seen your work. I think
Mhm.
it's among the best in the city.
Thank you.
When you can provide that kind of a product to a client at a price that is reasonable and maybe even within their ability to afford,
Mhm.
you've just opened a door, and you've created a relationship.
And a
And like
location.
you-
in
and
those
a lo-
cases.
exactly.
Yeah.
You now
Anybody.
have the ability to ask them, hey, can we come in and film here?
Mm-hmm.
Yeah.
And your chances of a yes have increased.
Yes.
Mhm.
Your chances of a relationship building out of that, and you know as well as anybody, when you establish a good relationship with a client, that client tells other people.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
And now you have other people looking at you and calling you.
Yeah.
We've jumped into that market about a year ago.
Mm-hmm.
And it's difficult,
Yeah.
but it really is. I mean, we've gotten a lot of our jobs because someone we worked with said something to someone else.
Mhm.
And, I don't know if you have a dedicated individual. We, as such, don't. But the only time we get jobs is when we can have the time to go look for them.
Yeah.
We don't
Yeah.
have someone out there cold calling constantly or visiting constantly, asking people to do this,
Mhm.
which, ultimately is what someone like us would need.
Mhm.
But we do one good project with someone. They've said something to 8 other people. 5 of those 8 other people have contacted us.
Mm-hmm.
Out of that came 2 other jobs.
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
So it really is important to have that kind of relationship. And when someone opens up to you like they did downtown, what I witnessed, and
Yeah.
gave you an amazing facility.
Yes.
Just the room they let you eat
What's
in
the
company
alone
called?
was worthy of being filmed.
Tennessee, pretty.
I think so. It's at Wagner and Vance.
Around the corner from Gus's.
Yeah.
Yeah, I was going to say, it's
Mhm.
right near Gus's Chicken.
Um, yeah. But that
Yeah, that was
lady
great.
was so
But I
nice.
also, I even commented to Charlie at one point that, I kind of went into the back where Charlie was, talking to him, and I was looking at your layout and all the people, and basically they're all just hanging out eating at this point.
Mhm.
And I recognized every face from your set.
Mhm.
There was not one person representing that place watching you.
Yeah.
And
She
I
was
was
doing her own work.
and I was
Yeah, she was in the
impressed.
office doing work or something.
I did
Yeah.
I did later notice that she was on the other side
Yeah.
of a glass window or partition.
But
or
she couldn't
something.
even see what we were doing.
But she could barely see what
Yeah.
you were doing, and there was a lot of stuff. I don't know what half of it was, to be
Oh, yeah.
honest with you.
That probably-
expensive
But
expensive
there was a
printing
lot
press.
of building,
Yeah.
of big equipment for printing.
Mhm.
There was an organ in the back, and an
Mhm.
old piano in the back.
Yeah.
And here's 40,
Didn't
50
somebody play it
people
that day?
Yeah.
moving through their factory warehouse area,
Mm-hmm.
Mhm.
and she's doing her job.
Yep.
That's amazing trust.
That is
Mhm.
amazing trust for somebody you just met on the street that you saw across the street doing something really weird with a bunch of people with masks on and guns. And
I was
just
going to
yeah.
say, and to be offered that when what you're filming is 2 gangs of presidential faces armed with
Mhm.
whatever weapons they happen to
So
be
on
carrying.
our lunch break, there's next to her door a pile of melee weapons and combat equipment. Just
table
waiting.
legs with nails sticking out of them and like, yeah.
I
Those guys
remember,
look
I remember the
trustworthy.
baseball bat wrapped in barbed wire. That was one of my favorite.
Oh man, yeah. There's some great weapons. There's a plastic wheelbarrow for like a little kid. Chet Irwin is an amazing production designer. He knows exactly what I want. I don't have to tell him.
Krylon
Weird shit.
was used during this movie that I think I'll use it forever in movies because of like things he would just paint it with Krylon, and it had this look to it where it fit this movie or something. And
Yeah.
made fish heads out of the last thing was fish heads out of duct tape, just Kryloned over.
That was amazing.
And they were fumy, but it had this cool look to it. There's an alligator costume last year.
Probably less fumy than real fish heads.
Probably. Mm-hmm.
But,
Yeah, stuff Chad came up with.
Yeah, he was very resourceful with the limited amount of money we gave him. He
Mhm.
was extremely resourceful. I was like, "Can you make me a bunch of people that are like in like fish costumes and they're dancing around in the back and turn Fresh Slices into a Chinese restaurant, and we're gonna have John Sparks up here dressed like a mafia don."
I can't wait to see this movie. That alone, that should be your trailer right there. You just telling us
Is that
that.
scene?
And it's a one shot. It's a
It's
one
all
shot
one
of him talking to Ron Gephardt on the phone, and this weird fish play going on in the back, and my producer dressed up like a shark chasing them in a circle.
Are you a Lynch fan?
Yes.
Okay.
And that was another thing. I used to work at Fresh Slices, and
Yeah.
I've just stayed
There was
in
our
touch
connection.
with Tasha, the manager, and asked her like, could we, restaurants usually slow from 2 to 5, so
Right.
we got 3 hours, and she was like, yeah, sure.
And
They sat in the back. We got to take over the whole front of the store.
Wow.
there were customers in the back.
Customers coming
Eating-
in, having to
They
duck
were
behind.
so quiet, just watching us.
It really is amazing how
eating their meal, watching this crazy.
you go out and you film somewhere,
Mhm.
and people are just noisy.
Yeah.
But when you go into an environment, like even here, doing this live show,
Oh, yeah,
you've probably
everybody's-
witnessed as it is.
everybody's
People come in, they start
tiptoeing around.
moving slow, they start talking quiet.
Mhm.
One of the reasons we chose this environment was the activity.
Yeah.
Yeah.
You know, we want people to realize what this place is.
Yeah.
Good, segging into that. Any of your films here?
Not that I know of.
Mm-mm.
Unless there's some bootleg copies.
You need to get all of your films
We
put on
want-
DVD
we
and
have-
put on this shelf.
We
Yeah.
made about
Oh,
4 or
Team Picture.
5
I own Team Picture.
shorts at the same time. All our group made a handful of shorts, and we want to collect those onto something. And
The Best
get
Friends
them-
collection. That's what.
Well,
Yeah.
then by all means, please add it to that shelf in
Yeah.
there, because that shelf in 13 plus years, that shelf has barely grown.
Mhm.
And that is his local independent section. And that's, one of his goals is to create the ultimate film catalog and library. And he really, really especially wants the local and independent production, because where else are we going to get catalog? Where else are we going to get preserved?
Mhm.
So please, you, any filmmakers out there, get your stuff put onto a DVD
Yeah.
and bring it to Matt Martin at Black Lodge, put it on the shelf. It may get rented, it may sit on that shelf and collect dust, but it is there and it is preserved for anyone in the future to be able to see the work that you put your heart and soul into.
At the very least, other filmmakers are going to come over there and look at it.
Absolutely.
Yeah.
And it is important.
Some
to-
oblivious youngster who doesn't know what he's getting into yet, just
Well-
watching all of it.
It's funny you would say that. Do you guys know Sam Bear?
Yes.
Mm-hmm.
By no means would I imply that he's an oblivious youngster.
No, not at all.
But
I think he's older than me.
he came here from Connecticut,
Mhm.
and he met Mike McCarthy and
Yeah.
talked with him for a while. He was our guest on this show a couple weeks ago.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm.
And he came in here and he said that this place was his library. He came
Yeah.
in and he studied film here.
Yeah.
And the way they have it broken by directors and eras and countries and things like that, you
Yeah.
really can study very specifically.
I have a stack about this
Film
tall
history.
at home right now of their movies that
I
came and checked out.
spent numerous years coming in here 2-3 times a week, grabbing things, taking them home, watching them, bringing them back.
Mhm.
And, it really did open my eyes to a lot of things that, now that I knew this was what I was going to do, it really helped me realize what is behind doing this. Like I said, a
Mhm.
lot of us, when we start out, grab a camera, point it.
Mhm.
It's got a microphone.
Yeah.
You know what that sounds like. In a visual medium, the most important thing is still sound.
Yes.
If you can't hear it, it does not matter what it is.
It can look beautiful, and as soon as you hear that, you're going to turn it off.
Exactly.
You're used to beautiful.
And if you have an adventurous
Hollywood
mind, you're going to turn
sound.
it down, and then 3 minutes later, you're going to turn it off.
Yeah.
Because there's still, no matter what, we're still human.
Yeah.
And there's
Yeah.
that psychological reaction where you have a certain window of time, something between 3 and 7 minutes,
Yeah.
where if there isn't proper stimulation, you naturally just start trailing off interest. And that's
Mhm.
when you see people doing this,
Mm-hmm.
or shifting in a seat.
Mm-hmm.
And, that's the kind of thing I look for when we screen one of our productions.
Mm-hmm.
I remember, I think it was Nashville in 2002 when I screened Morning Ritual
Mm-hmm.
in their film fest. At that point, I'd seen it so many times, I don't need to look at the screen. But I'd always had the same reaction at the end of it, which was absolute silence
Yes.
for a period of time.
Yeah.
And I decided this time I want to just turn around and watch my audience
Mm-hmm.
and see if I did my job. And I was very pleased that in the 8 minutes and so many seconds, very little movement,
Mm-hmm.
very little blinking,
Mhm.
most people mouth wide open.
Mm-hmm.
And then it goes black. And I think, I've completely messed up.
Yeah.
And
Yeah,
then
I know
there's
that
that
feeling.
first couple of people, and then it just opens up.
Mm-hmm.
That's an amazing feeling.
Mhm.
To know that you just completely engaged and enraptured your audience.
And that is the problem with doing an experimental thing, a drama, anything that doesn't have any comedy in it. Where's the reaction you can gauge?
It's
There's no
also-
laughs.
It's also why Hollywood films have become what they are predominantly.
Yeah.
Which is flash, eye candy,
Mhm.
glitz, just constant, because they know American audiences, if it's not enticing us,
Mm-hmm.
we're not going to invest.
Yep.
Mhm.
And that's a shame, because when you look at, like we brought up Ingmar Bergman,
Mm-hmm.
there's not a lot of flash, glitz, and glamour in a Bergman film.
Nope.
Mm-mm.
But I challenge anyone to invest in the beginning of a Bergman film
Mm-hmm.
and not still be there at the end of it.
Yeah.
We, by and large, have lost that in the major market. And it's people like you, people like us, people like, other filmmakers in this town that are trying, I hope, to bring some of that back.
Yeah.
Even silence. Watch 2001.
Yeah.
There's that incredible use of silence when Hal won't let David in the pod back in.
Yeah.
And you're outside and you have dead space silence. And then you're inside and it's only the hum of machinery. And then back out. And, I was 8 years old when I saw that. That lasted with me. That made such an impression. You watch a Hollywood movie now, there is no silent moment.
No.
Ever. It's just there's a song, there's a
Exactly.
sound effect, there's a bullet going off, there's an explosion.
If there's no dialogue, there's some pop music or something playing.
Exactly. Do you use, now Wes Anderson, I've noticed, will use silences.
Yeah.
Do you make use of silences in your films?
Oh yeah. I love awkward pauses that are like sustained for like a ridiculously long time. And you're just waiting. What the fuck's going on? And it was great. It was in Solitary Mets when that screened at Indy Memphis. I got
that there as
I
well.
got the best response out of there. I'm sitting all the way on the right side, and I hear somebody in the middle of the audience when it was the part with there's the guy sitting in a chair in like a rat costume, and Charlie Metz wakes up, and it's like an acid trip. And he's like, and there's just this rat staring at him, and the guy in the audience goes, "What the fuck?" And that was the best response I think I've gotten from a movie yet.
I remember that, actually. I had a similar experience when Craig showed Indie Origins,
Mm-hmm.
and they
That
showed
was
Morning
great.
Ritual.
Yeah.
And at the end of Morning Ritual, there's that moment of dead silence, and somewhere in the front of the audience, you hear this girl just go, "Oh my God!" And I love this. Is pure, honest reactions. I love things like that.
Mhm.
But going back, the sustained silences, those awkward moments, those
Yeah.
lingered shots. there's a psychological response that we have to that.
Mm-hmm.
And I'm really impressed and pleased, because you are 23? You're young.
Yeah.
And you've been doing this 4 years, 5 years?
3 years, I think.
3 years?
Yeah.
Okay.
I don't include my high school.
You seem to have learned a lot before you started to learn a lot, if you know what I mean.
Yeah, yeah.
There's an instinct.
Yeah.
For me, I grew up watching TV and movies and reading comic books all the time, so there was just a natural, I know the pacing now, type of a thing.
Yeah.
What's your background? Who inspired you? Who made you want to do this?
Oh, wow. Me and Shelby Baldock is my other partner with PMM Pictures. He's out in LA right now, going to school. We made really dumb movies in high school about the most ridiculous stuff. And, I mean, I would never want to show anybody any of this stuff. It's so goofy and ridiculous, but...
We all had to start somewhere.
Yeah, but it's nothing like... It's nothing like the movies that I even started making when I started actually making a serious movie now about something. I don't really. It's weird. I know the moment when I wanted to start making films. It was the first time I saw Blade Runner and Ridley Scott.
Nice.
Ridley Scott, you're making me regret liking you. I don't like Prometheus. I'm sorry.
I was not impressed by
No, I
Prometheus,
wasn't.
and I'm already less impressed with the concept of a Blade Runner sequel.
I'm sorry, Josh McClane. He liked Prometheus, but yeah, I'm not excited about
There's
that
a lot
at
of
all.
bright colors and cool details.
Yeah.
It had its visual moments,
It had-
but
Yeah.
But that father line,
Oh God.
when she calls him father.
Father. Yeah, get out of here, Shirley Theron.
Mhm.
No, I mean but Blade Runner. That was the moment. That was the moment when I knew I wanted to make films. I saw Blade Runner for the first time. I had just heard it was interesting. I liked Harrison Ford, and I just went out and bought the big box set final cut that had every cut in it, Blu-ray. It was only like $15 at the time.
it has all the cuts.
It has all the cuts in it.
Wow.
And I've seen most of all of them.
There's like 5 versions on it.
Yeah, something like
5
that.
or 4, including the work print, which is, there's no reason to watch that.
Mhm.
But
See, now I used to like the original version.
the theatrical version?
Yeah, I used to love that.
Yeah. I was spoiled. I saw the final cut, and then I saw the theatrical cut.
I now own the Blu-ray of the director's final
Yeah.
version, whatever
He's labeled.
version it's
That one that came
labeled
out
now.
in like 05, right?
I think
something
so.
like that.
And oh my God,
Yeah.
still just an amazing movie.
Yes. Once he took out the narration.
I realize now, as a filmmaker, as
Yeah.
opposed to a film watcher,
Yeah.
I realize now just how dumbed down
Yeah.
that narrative made.
And Harrison Ford did not want to do that. He had absolutely no interest in doing that. Studios forced him to do it. So if you go into that and watch the theatrical cut, listening for that in his narration, he sounds like he's pissed off while he's doing the narration. And Ridley Scott didn't want to do it either. He just had
I was
to
gonna
do
say
it.
none of them wanted
No.
it. It was just the production company.
Yeah, and the theatrical cut has the last shot, or the last few
it's
shots.
extra footage from The Shining.
It's extra footage from The Shining of.
He was friends with
Kubrick?
Yeah.
Kubrick.
It's extra footage from The Shining of like the forest and like going like overhead with that.
That's in the original version.
Yeah, in the theatrical
Yeah.
cut. That's and
I
then
didn't realize that was from The Shining.
And then they cut into the car stuff because that was all filmed later because that's not how it wanted to end the movie.
Well, the movie's supposed to end the elevator.
Elevator,
and
door
then
closes.
And then it's a unicorn.
Unicorn.
I think, at the end.
Yeah.
Yeah.
The little origami
Sam
unicorn.
Barr.
Oh, it's Sam Bear.
Was that Sam? Hey Sam, how
Hey,
are
Sam.
you?
What's going on?
We just mentioned you.
Yeah. Name drop.
We're actually about to cut away to the trailer for your film, I believe.
Oh,
so,
great.
He was our guest 2 weeks ago, and he just completed.
I filmed your death.
I filmed your death.
With Charlie
And
Metz.
With Charlie Metz.
again with Charlie Metz.
Acting.
And we had a fantastic show. It was actually one of our better shows. And both my partner Jamie and I left inspired on a new level because of what Sam had done with his film, with bringing in Lloyd Kaufman,
And Michael Horse.
Peter Took, and there was a fourth one. Merle Allen.
Yeah.
Wow.
Wow.
For such a young filmmaker working at our level,
To be able to pull all that
to step
talent
out, to pull that together, to make that happen, I really feel like
on a micro budget. At that too.
I kind
Yeah.
of feel like the guy that was the tortoise in the hare, and I feel like I was the tortoise in that race, and I watched Sam in 2007 as the prop master on Cigarette Girl,
Yeah.
and he kind of had that, I want to make a movie, and the next thing I know, he's over here making making movies with Michael Horse, Peter Took, Lloyd Kaufman, and Merle Allen. So I feel like I was standing still for a window of time, and Sam just made it happen. So much respect, Sam. We're going to cut away. We're going to look at the trailer for I Filmed Your Death, and we'll be right back with Chad Allen Barton and Eric Huber.
Okay, maybe not.
No? Are we clear?
No.
Meet young filmmaker Pierce Lindley, born and raised. Perhaps you know Pierce's grandfather, the former trooper of the town and a beloved public figure. Pierce's friends have just helped him make a movie, and it premieres tonight. Not everyone is happy about it. This could be the best night of Pierce's life, had he only known. I filmed your death. A portrait of today's youth. Always looking for an escape. Always looking for a distraction. Always, I filmed your death. Outside the public access channel. A popular television show personality makes a disturbing discovery when he finds that I filmed your death. Two intoxicated youths take it to the next level. But when the lights go off, I filmed your death. All of these deaths plus yours, I filmed your death.
Rise and shine! You don't want to use your tongue? Let's remove it. That's it! Your tongue's mine! Wakey, wakey, Michelle. That's right, Gary. Your buddy's here with you, too. I get to prove my point to you both. Ever seen someone's eyes when they're wide from fear, from pain? You're evil. What do you know about evil?
All right, that was I Filmed Your Death, Sam Baer's new project. We talking with him briefly during the break there. We're looking forward to seeing a rough cut of his project, hopefully in the near future. He said editing is going well. Inspired by Blade Runner,
Yes.
he decided to take up the mantle of filmmaker
Yeah.
and run forward.
Yep.
All right. What was the one for you? When and who was it, or what film was it that really made you know this is it?
It probably came a little later than that final cut, but I was always into art when I was a kid. A supportive mom. That's I ended up going to Memphis College of Art. Wanted to draw, then I wanted to get a job doing art, so did graphic design. got that degree, and I was going to those job interviews, and the one that kind of made me know I didn't want to do this was I went to a place that needed a graphic designer that they handle bank data, and they're just like this hub in between banks that
There
the
might
data
be
goes
something
here
more
and goes
boring
there.
sounding.
And they're like, well, we want a graphic artist that can really make this stuff, pop. And just from there, I was like, I don't think I can. Schedule.
Just no.
Yeah, and I signed up for the MA film program at University of Memphis, and that's where I ended up meeting Chad and Shelby and
Okay.
Charlie and all those people.
Now, what was the decision to jump into film?
Well,
I mean, why?
I've always loved film, and the thing about graphic design and whatnot is I wanted something that had a bigger audience that could reach more people.
Okay.
With painting and design, it's a lot of people see it, but it's a lot of artists look up other artists
Right.
and stuff like that. It's an inclusive thing, but with film, everybody's can be a professional, or everybody can be a critic or talk about it. So
Right.
it's a bigger audience. You can see more people. And I took a video class at MCA, and I liked it a lot,
Okay.
and I wanted to make them, but I signed up for the University of Memphis Master's Program in Communications, which graphic design, communication.
Right.
You do that. That goes hand in hand. Well, a fellow by the name of David Appleby called me one day in the summertime. You know David Appleby? He teaches
I
at the
don't.
university.
I've probably met him.
Yeah.
But again, names
And he called me. He's like, I see you've applied to come to the program, and I was just wanting to clear something up. I was like, okay. He goes, are you applying for a communications master or a communications master in the film and video department? And before I could say something, he goes, because if it was the film and video, we could get you in and you have a spot. Because it was kind of last notice. I was
Right.
like, oh, well, film and video department was one. That's the one I was signing up
So
for.
you kind of fell in.
Fell in, yeah.
Nice.
And did the classes. And so back to the movie, what it was is after it had resonance and just seeing what can be, like when you take a genre and really make it something bigger, it was The Dark Knight. Came out in 2008. That was a year before I got my undergraduate degree, and I knew movies were important. They were big movies, they were great movies, but to see, I was a comic book kid growing
Right.
up. Kyle Rayner, Green Lantern, was my
Gotcha.
gateway comic book, and to see that change into this thing that's bigger, the Oscar nom for Heath and all that stuff that
Right.
happened to just everyone saw this movie and big numbers, and then my second year in that master's program, I was doing my first short film, where I made it, and I did a little western upstairs at Ernestine and Hazel's. And that's another place. You just went there and asked them, like, can we shoot something upstairs? Like, yeah, just clean it.
Nice.
Just clean afterwards.
They are very
Yeah,
receptive.
but it was in August.
What was the name of it?
Huh?
What was the name?
Oh, The Notorious Jesse James was my short
Thank you,
film.
Chad. I was
Yeah.
going to get that. Is that
That's on the internet right now. That's on YouTube. You can find
It's
it.
played on TV too, right?
It was for a while when Live from Memphis had their spots on the library channel.
Right.
They had put it on there, and that was really cool. I saw my movie on TV.
How long is it?
It's 6 minutes. 6 minutes, and I had a fellow named Chris Niswonger that was a DP, and he's now the video guy at Rochester, doing their video up there.
Do me a favor.
Mhm.
We have an in-frame Facebook page, which I hope anybody watching will not only like themselves, but please tell everybody else to go and like. Post links.
Okay.
Go to the page and post links to your work so that people can see it up there.
Yeah, definitely.
And we may show pieces or stuff on here to help try to promote it, just so people see work that you've done.
Mm-hmm.
This show, as you heard me saying off camera, this show is all about helping all of us. Filmmakers, musicians, painters,
Yeah.
makeup artists, doesn't matter. It's about helping the independent artist specifically in our community, but hopefully we'll be able to reach more and bring some from other places to the show.
Mm-hmm.
To create a true unity within the community. to where if we need something, we're not going to a corporation to have this done. We're turning to another local artist.
Yeah.
We're not going to find out, can we get the rights to use a Maxfield Parrish picture? We're going to MCA and finding a painter whose work we like, or someone who's been on here that we know as a painter. So we want to kind of create that connection in our community with people so that when we do have a $2,000 budget for a feature, we can reach out to people in this community and we can work together to help each other, to lift each other's work up and put it out there into the public eye. And everybody gets to save $1, and everybody gets that little extra piece of exposure. So that's very important. But sorry, I didn't mean to cut off our trail, but continue.
But yeah, I was walking around some painter studios the other day, and this girl, Brittany Vega, she had some really nice pieces. Like, can we put those two in the background of this comedy skit me and Josh McClain are going to do for the comedy festival that's going on at Theater Memphis right now?
Right.
I said, can we put those in the background? And
Did
she
you
like,
get pie on that?
Yeah. But I asked her that. I was like, now, would it be, can I have those two paintings, and is it okay if whipped cream possibly gets on them? And she's like, yeah, sure. And so we did this pie in the face skit, but it had these nice paintings in the background. They look great. But I took them back. She's like, oh, thanks. I got some pie on there. Wiped it off. She goes, it's fine.
But see, that's the kind of thing we were talking about earlier, where you can't buy that production value.
No.
Yeah.
I mean, you can, but not on our budget.
Yeah.
But to have a local artist you can reach out to that will supply, and knowing that they might get whipped cream or pie or whatever on it, especially.
Yeah.
Every piece of artistic expression is still a piece of you. So to put it out, I know my wife is an artist, and her work got damaged in the past at a gallery. Well, after the gallery, when they brought it to us, they damaged it. But I watched what that did to her as a piece of her own expression. So it's very, again, back to that responsibility. Having someone's, and they spent hours painting or drawing or whatever it is, sculpting, and they've given it to you.
Yeah.
And you have to bring it back to them, and you just by being the person you are, you want to bring it back the way you were given it, if not better.
Yeah.
So having the responsibility for that's probably something that's kind of weighs, but it really is nice that we have that community. And it does create a grassroots sort of benefit to keeping our budgets low and things like that.
Yeah.
And, you mentioned Blade Runner inspiring you. You mentioned The Dark Knight, which I have to agree, among the more modern films, that film especially stood out as amazing. Heath Ledger's performance, Christopher Nolan, I think, is one of the better filmmakers we have active now in Hollywood anyway. Oddly for me, it was actually Craig Brewer's Poor and Hungry. I filmed a short scene in it as an actor. I'm the drug dealer in the first 5 minutes or something like that. I give Lindsay her little bump.
Yeah, I've seen it.
It was fun.
I've seen the long version of it, and I haven't seen. He has a new version coming out, right, where he's going to cut it down.
I don't know.
Well,
I know there was
the music that he's wanted.
Yeah.
Because he can afford the licensing now, and they somebody colored it for him.
Nice.
Some people out in L.A.
Really?
took his not colored it. I mean, bumped the contrast, the resolution, made it look nice.
Because it was all shot on DVD.
He mentioned that they were going to do something to
They
that.
sharpened it up a little bit.
He actually insinuated, and I have no idea, and I wouldn't hold him to this, but he insinuated that they might be doing it for Morning Ritual as well.
Really? That would be
Because, Craig, every time I see Craig, he compliments me on that thing, and John Bifus is the same way. So, I'm excessively proud of that film. I doubt that I'll ever do anything that really hits the same way because that was my first film. I don't know if you've seen it or not. I know you have.
Yeah.
But I had no idea that I could do something like that.
Yeah.
So, have you had that moment yet where Am I was amazing. Solitary Mets was a fantastic little film.
I don't know if I've had that moment with a film overall. There's one moment since I've been making films that I felt like a director, and it was on Lights Camera. It was on the first third of the movie. It was the scene where Eric sees on this news report that Graham's character is dead, and he's in the room with Marcus Seabury. They're in the break room of the office, and I think it was just because this was like the end of this long weekend where we built this set on Saturday. Took 17 hours to do. The next day, it was like a 15 or 16 hour day of shooting. We had to shoot like 6 or 7 scenes in this office in one weekend. It was Martin Luther King weekend. So Monday we shot for about 14 hours. And I believe it was Monday when we shot this scene, and it was one of the last scenes. And you could tell Eric's in almost every scene. So
Right.
he's basically, I mean, you do 7 scenes in 2 days.
He got a little disconnected.
Yeah, I mean,
at the
you're,
end of that
I
second
mean,
day.
you're
I
like,
can well imagine.
yeah, you're like almost broken. by
He was
the end
letting
of
us
that.
know the next day. He's like, I don't remember what you're talking about. Like
Yeah,
what we did.
but there was this moment where the 2 DPs were setting up to shoot Marcus Seabury, and I looked over at Eric, and I saw that it looked like he was about to cry, and I was like, hold up, you're getting him first. And they said, but we're already setting up the dolly track here. I was like, no, you're going to do what I said. You're going to go over here and you're going to shoot him because that's what I want you to do. And they go, all right, because they don't understand. They don't see.
Yeah,
they don't see what's going
what's
on.
happening in your head.
Exactly. And so we get this, and it was amazing. He just broke down, and I was glad that it happened when it happened. We shot it 2 more times. It wasn't the same. The first take was it.
Yeah.
And that's the only time I've ever felt like
It's funny you say that. I remember when we shot Morning Ritual, we also shot Eric Tate had a project, and Melissa Crouch, I think was her name at the time. I think she's married now, but she was a poet, and she had written a piece called Plock, and we got Lindsay Roberts from Born Hungry to do the lead role, and it's a metaphor film. Melissa being a writer, it's about writer's block, and Lindsay's playing this girl who's blindfolded and handcuffed to a pipe, and it's inside the head, more or less. It's that dealing with that writer's block. And I played the mysterious figure. You never really see me. You see my hands, and I'm writing some things. And Lindsay had this moment where she really, really, really had to bring something emotional out. And she asked to be excused for a moment. So we, undid her and let her go. She went off into a side room. She came back a few minutes later. They hooked her back up to the pipe. She did the scene. It was very, very intense. And Melissa called cut. Craig walked over, undid her. She got up, she walked away, and she didn't come back for almost 10 minutes. And when she got back, Melissa said, I want to do that again. And Craig stopped her. And he's like, no, you don't. No. You will not get anything near what you just got.
Yeah.
So there is something to be said for knowing your moment.
Yeah.
I haven't had a moment like that as such
Yeah.
that I can recall off the top of my head with an actor. But I've had a few moments like that with my cinematographer. We had met in October, and in January we were filming our first project together of whatever year it was, a few ago. And there was a moment, there was actually 2 key moments. One was on Madison Avenue, between the P&H and the corner where that 6-story police building used to be. Well, I think we have the last footage of it.
Yeah.
Because it was like a week later that thing was a lot. But I told my cinematographer basically what I want is. And he ran across the street and started setting up his camera. And I'm talking to my actor, and I'm watching him set up across the street. I'm like, I don't think that's going to look right. So I run over, I walk over to him, I look at his camera, and it literally was pull in 1/2 inch. and you're perfect. I had not ever had that experience. Like, that is what chemistry on set is.
Yeah.
And then in that same shoot, we were downtown at Carolina,
Mm-hmm.
where that bridge is right off of Maine.
Yep.
And he's standing up. We're going to do a shot over the rail as David Tankersley walks out of the bridge.
Mm-hmm.
And I kind of told him what I want, and I turn around, and the next thing, do whatever, and I turn back around, and he has got his camera, which he's already explained to me is multiple thousands of dollars, and he's hanging off of that old rusted pipe that was there, hanging out at probably a 30-degree angle. And he's like, "I'm ready." And I'm just like, I'm not ready to be the director that killed his cameraman. Like this, I'm just now starting to figure out what it's like to be a filmmaker.
No
And
budget.
I don't want to deal with the death of someone on my set.
You can't die now.
And of course, it all went well. My paranoia, once the shot was done and he was back in and the camera was in no danger of dropping and he was in no danger of dropping, everything went back to okay.
Mm-hmm.
But those were those two key moments where, crap, I'm a responsible filmmaker. And, I've got his equipment, I've got him, but there's that connection, that chemistry
Mm-hmm.
that really did, and I imagine a kind of similar thing with Eric in that moment where you just knew
Yeah.
in that moment
Mm-hmm.
this was right.
Yeah.
And, the other one, of course, would have been when Craig brought me over and showed me the final cut of Morning Ritual. And that was the moment where I literally had to ask myself, who made this? Because there's no way that's me. To me, I've got 15 to 20 years on both of you probably more. So to me, the possibility of growing up and making film was really a pipe dream.
Yeah.
Because in my day, how am I going to get a 16 or a 35 millimeter camera? How am I going to afford?
If you're Herzog, you steal it.
Well, how am I going to afford film stock?
Yeah.
How am I going to afford to develop film stock, etc.? So it was never going to happen in my life.
Mhm.
I grew up poor. I was a high school dropout. I did really good in my GED. Whoop-de-doo. Never pursued college. So how am I going to become a filmmaker? Then the digital age happened.
Mm-hmm.
And I was working at Bookstar, met Erin. Erin introduced me to her brother-in-law, Craig. Next thing I know, I'm sitting on set. And on set was the back porch of the P&H Cafe, and that was okay.
Yeah.
And there's, Seth carrying lights and a microphone, and Craig wielding this little camera. And I'm like, okay, this is, the ultimate home movie.
Yeah.
And he directs me. And as he's working, I'm like, this is going to be the best home movie ever. And then he shows me the footage.
Mm-hmm.
And even raw, off of a D8 camera.
Yeah.
I was just in a moment of awe. It's like, because he's just like me. He's a guy that works retail jobs, and he happens to own this little camera that, given a paycheck or two, I could afford.
Yeah.
So
Tens of thousands of other people have this. They use it to shoot their kids,
exactly,
recitals.
and that's what I was expecting it to look like.
Yeah.
The whole
It's something different when you're
motion,
orchestrating.
Yeah.
But to see that with the right mindset,
Mm-hmm.
with the right chemistry and combination of peoples, that people like us, who we're not rich, you've got school loans.
Oh, yeah.
I believe you have a child.
Yes.
You don't have a lot of money to throw around.
No.
So to suddenly see that people that in these positions could go out there and make a film, like a real thing, not a movie you can show your friends on a drunken Saturday night and laugh about, but
Mhm.
a real project that an audience could sit down and maybe even get something out of,
Mm-hmm.
completely changed it for me. There were things along the way, 2001, back to back with itself at the age of 8. David Lynch's Elephant Man at the age of 12. Kubrick's Clockwork Orange at the age of 13. These were things that made me want it.
Yeah.
But Craig Brewer in Porn Hungry was the thing that really made me know I could do it.
Mm-hmm.
And that was a transitional moment for me. Before we started the show, and I'm completely jumping and changing subject here, but before we started the show, I asked you about an intention for the project.
Yeah.
At that moment, I was asking about a business side of it, but that aside, whether you'll LLC or whether you won't or whatever, what is your first step with what you have now? I mean, of course, you've got editing and all of that, but are you going to try to have it into Indie Memphis this next year?
Possibly.
But then there's that option to wait a year and send it around elsewhere and maybe get laurels.
Yeah, you know.
So it could be, there's an option there.
Yeah. I don't, and this is no offense to Indie Memphis in any way, like, I don't see Indie Memphis as the end-all, be-all of...
Well, I don't think
where it
any
should be.
festival is.
No. But, I'm not... Like, in years past, it's always been, like, the deadline is try to get something in Indie Memphis. And this one, it's like, I'm not going to concern myself trying to get it in Indie Memphis this year. It would be, maybe next year
When
we'll
it's
enter in
ready,
some
it's
other
ready,
festivals.
You're
Do
not going to
some-
rush.
Yeah, we're going to do some private screenings and
That's
all
another
that.
question.
And I think that, Tennessee Queer, they've waited a year, and I think
Yeah.
they're going to be in Indie Memphis, was it this year or next year?
I think it's this year.
Yeah,
Okay.
I think so. Yeah, so it's a similar plan. They took it
Yeah.
to Philadelphia first, I think, right?
Yeah,
or
they
something
took
like
it all
that.
over the place first
Um,
before it came back here.
Well, we had a couple of short films. I think Eric was there. I think you might have been there in June, July. Where we showed Cold Blooded and
The bag.
The Bag, and a couple others were mixed in there to
Yeah,
fill
you
out the
rented City on
time.
the Square for a night for a
And
couple
we
$100
rented the
bucks.
studio,
Yeah.
so having your own premiere, we, again, nothing against Indie Memphis. I
Yeah.
love that we have a festival,
Yeah.
and I'm hoping that maybe I can put something together this year to have something there, because I do want to support it, and I do
Yeah.
want to be a part of it.
Yeah.
But with those two films, I really wanted the actors and actresses that were a part of it, and honestly, I really wanted my, at that time, new partner, Jamie, to really feel like it was something special. And for a short film at Indie Memphis, you don't really have that opportunity.
Yeah.
You're one of a group.
Mm-hmm.
There's no real focus necessarily. I mean, if your film stands out, then you'll get something. But, a lot of people weren't ready for that type of film, possibly.
Mhm.
It's very intense in places. But I wanted him to really be able to feel the rush and the accomplishment sensation. And I wanted all of the cast to feel that special moment, because they'd all put a lot of work into it.
Yeah.
And, The Bag may not be the strongest story that I've ever made, but it's one of the most polished pieces. It flows, the editing on it is fantastic. It really is a solid piece of work for what it is.
Mm-hmm.
And Cold Blooded is Jamie's first narrative project. And, he'll be the first to tell you there's things about it that he thinks he wants to fix or change, or just mostly subtle things, because it is what it is.
Yeah.
But he's already learned from it. But to be able to have your own premiere, to be able to have that sensation, that focus, it really is, there's kind of something to that. And we elected just to have that instead of the Indie Memphis thing that time around.
Mhm.
Yeah, and I mean, there are films like my first film, I Can't Turn It Off. It's hard to program. It's 30 minutes long. And
Which is also Cold Blooded and The Bag are both at that time.
exactly. And I completely understand why it's hard to program.
Mhm.
I mean, that's taking up a big chunk of the time slot.
As I was saying, shorts are often given a block.
Yeah.
And ideally, they want as many films in that block as possible
Yeah,
to
exactly.
have as much attraction as possible.
We showed that at studio also, and great reception. We charged $5 a piece. We had 2 showings of it. Made about $1,100
Nice.
from that, and we had like 100 and I don't know however the math works out. It was like 100 and something people show up for the 2 screenings, and it was great. We worked out something with Memphis Pizza Cafe across the way, and it was if you bring your ticket stub, you get 15% off your meal. So like we worked out this nice little night where you could come enjoy the movie and then come get something to eat afterwards. And,
Very nice.
so that was my first experience with showing a movie, and it would never be the same after that. Everything was always like Solitary Mets we showed at the High Tone first, and that was interesting. The projector broke that they had there, and we had to bring our own screen, and the fans were still going, so the screen's moving
Right.
like this, and the projector we got was like heavy on the blue, and it's a black and white movie, so it was like just blue and white, and, we're like, and then the screen's waving, and I was just like, oh, no. It's like that Patton Oswalt moment where he wrote a script. It was for something. It was some movie that ended up becoming really shitty. I don't remember what it was, but him sitting in the screening room with the test audience, got a bottle of water and a Xanax right here, and he's waiting to use it. And he's like, inevitably 30 minutes in, because it's going bad. And that's how I felt in that moment. I was like, man, I wish I had that right now. That way, that and Am I were both shown at bars first.
Right.
Never showed me at a bar. Yeah, and so yeah, we've never had a good premiere since then. But you know, Lights Camera will be something different. They show it at the studio. It'll be a nice evening.
Well, from what I've seen of it, which I've not seen any real footage, but watching you work on it, talking to you, talking to Eric, knowing a little bit about what it is, I think it's the kind of thing that really needs to be at the studio.
Yeah.
And I think probably every filmmaker in this city should go, because from those conversations, I know you deal with what it's like to make a film in Memphis.
You know.
The planes, the trains, everything we've talked about.
Mm-hmm.
The actors that can't get scheduled.
Mm-hmm.
The actors that can't show up. The actors that can't remember lines. Whatever it might be, these are all things all of us have faced at one point or another.
The crew members that show up an hour late.
The crew members that show up
The
late.
director that shows up an hour late. Because
The caskets that need built.
Yeah. Yeah, the
So,
caskets that need built.
With all of that, as a side note, do any of the good things that happen in the city, like you finding a location for free, or is it more about just the frustrations and the downside,
Oh,
just to
no.
make the comedy?
No, I mean,
Like you're wanting to do it. Yeah, it's fun.
I mean-
to be around these people, and
yeah, I mean, like, it's bad in a way, but then there's an upside to the bad even. I mean, it's funny and it's ridiculous, but you still get something done. And no, the movie's not all bad. I'd say, of course, it hinges more on the frustration because that's the funny part.
Well, I was going to say, that's where your comedy's going to come from.
Yeah, but you know, even though majority of the characters in the movie are terrible people, there are definitely some good people that I tried to put in there and show the balance, show the people that don't add to the bullshit or put up with the bullshit.
Right.
They try to go over the top of it.
Okay, so looking past the edit,
Yeah.
looking past the release,
Mhm.
past festivals and all of that, what will be next for you? Another feature, some shorts? Are you going to take a step back from the director's chair and kind of do some crew work for other people? Or?
That's kind of I'm kind of taking this year and maybe the next year too to work on other people's stuff, write. I'm thinking about directing a play maybe.
Interesting. Now, would this be a play you would write, or would you
No,
just go to the theater and offer?
I mean the play I'm looking at right now that I'm really interested in, and I read it a long time ago, and then I saw the Tommy Lee Jones version of it that he did because he's obsessed with Cormac McCarthy. It was Sunset Limited. Cormac McCarthy play that's written 2 characters, 1 setting, dialogue, just monologues basically.
Okay.
And I think I already know who I'd want to play the roles and everything. It's yeah. I mean, I want to branch out and do different stuff.
Absolutely.
I've been wanting to direct something in the theater. And then after he did, he AD'd Three Penny opera at Memphis.
Okay.
And he's talking about maybe doing his own play. it made me think, like, why have I waited so long? I want to go ahead and do one too.
That's
And-
something I haven't done myself, actually. I'm kind of intimidated by the thought of doing a play because
Oh, yeah.
it feels a lot less control.
Yes.
That
And
you have to.
It's not saved on your computer after.
Yeah, it's just it is
That's
what
one
it is.
thing,
It's
like,
gone.
And then it's
Like
gone.
just like now talking about it, it happened. If you
Yeah.
saw it,
Yeah.
you saw it. But yeah, the
I was lucky
theater
enough to see it
it's
twice.
and that was me. That's interesting. Doing the film and whatnot, and then diving into that theater stuff for a semester. They just live it, and when the show's done, they forget it and work
They
on the
move
next
on,
one.
yeah.
And it's nuts. It's
And we're like,
fast-paced.
well, we got to make sure we record it, stick a camera back here, and get the wide of everything. But they're
Yeah.
like, well, okay, I guess if you want
I
to.
might look at that.
Yeah, it really,
See-
it's an incredibly different animal from
Yeah.
the actor side of it,
Yeah.
especially.
Yeah.
But you get that opportunity to work with actors in like longevity.
Right.
With this, there's rare time for rehearsal, but theater's all about the rehearsal.
Theater's
Oh, yeah.
all rehearsal.
See, it's all
Oh, yeah.
about that cook time and changing things up.
And it's, I mean, it's got to be interesting as a director or as an AD or whatever to be able to watch the actors really grow and change and mutate a character into existence.
Yeah.
And then, to put it on night after night after night.
And that was a beneficial role being the AD. I was
And it's
assistant director
different.
to Mark Davis.
And it's different from being an AD on a film set. Where
Yeah,
it's,
totally.
it's all about you're basically the production manager.
AD in theater, you're the little gnome on his shoulders being like, maybe you should have him do it this way.
Right.
Do it that way.
You're more in
And
touch with the
handling
actors.
semantic stuff and whatnot, but
And a lot less clocking.
you get to
Yeah.
watch the football game
Mm-hmm.
as the AD. Mark Davis was the director. He's from New York. He's been in The Lion King on Broadway,
He's in Lights Camera.
and he's in Lights,
Excellent.
Camera, bullshit. And so I got to sit one step back and watch him direct the chaos, and just you get that opportunity to be like, what would I do? When you're yelling at the
Yeah.
sports game, like he should have gone left. He's like, when you're on the field, you couldn't see the left
Yeah.
because you're running. And
Okay. So,
but yeah, it was really interesting.
what will be next for you? Will it be a play, or are you going to do...
Well, next for me, I'm doing the MFA program at Memphis College of Art right now, and I'd asked them when I entered, like, can I do this movie thing while I'm doing? She said, yeah, and they're really helping me. That MFA program, they're helping focus on the concepts. It's like it's very impressive that you know all the programs and the cameras and the lingo, but we're gonna go past that and find out what it's about. And so that's been nice. And working with buddy Josh, but it was after the last day of shooting on Lights Camera Bullshit. We get in these Facebook chats that are really funny and competitive. But he said, "Like, what is it?" He's like, "I'm gonna take a step back. What are you gonna do? And do you have any ideas?" Like, I've got ideas. Like, it could be about this guy, or it could be about this girl, or these two people. And it's like, blah, 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 blah. What do you really want to?
Yeah, I
And
was
so
like, no,
we
what do you
kinda-
want to do?
Yeah, and so it kind of honed down to something that there's a long-term plan developing where we might be shooting my first feature in December.
Excellent.
And Chad will be my DP, and then buddy Josh McLean will be my producer, and might start it. And the notorious Jesse James short that I did, it was all in one room at Ernestine and Hazel's, and it was really neat experience, and it was a genre, so it was
Right.
this Western, and
It's really impressive if you haven't seen it.
I
He
haven't,
shot
but
it.
I'm going to today, because I shot a Western
it
that
was-
is not finished yet.
It was all done from one light bulb, correct?
one
And
light bulb, yeah, with the 7D and those Zeiss lenses.
He cranked up the ISO all the way, and then they just put it through a denoiser program. Looks beautiful. It's
Interesting.
insane. It's insane
But
what
took
what
all
he
the
could do.
grain and fuzz out.
Yeah.
But I was like, wouldn't it be cool to do something like that again? Because we did this, and this set was kind of similar. I had another short airing in Midtown where it was this multiple locations, multiple actors, peppered schedules, just trying to figure out where you can pin everybody together.
Right.
And wouldn't it be cool if this time, just like in Jesse James, it all took place in one place, and we built this set so we could control this set. And so we know how to work, shooting from the hip and stuff.
Right.
What if we had a place that we went and shot something? And so we might be building a set in the science fiction realm, and yeah, doing something like that. And when
I would say keep me posted, but that's kind of part of all of this.
Yeah.
Keep
Yeah.
all of us
Yeah.
posted,
Right.
please.
And definitely because of our budget and our styles and our attitudes, not so much in the sci-fi, but more of the space genre, dealing with, like 2001, those silent moments,
Right.
and dealing with that human out in nothing. And since it all takes place in one area, would make it very easy to workshop as a play. And all this theater stuff I've been doing lately, I could cast it and workshop it with these dedicated actors. They
And
run it
move
as a
them to
play for a
screen.
couple
Yeah.
weeks. We do the play as a fundraiser, and then we spend 4 months after the play is done building the set and
That's just sort of genius.
Yeah.
trying
Really.
to shoot it and make it happen. Yeah, and having a control, like building it, like putting the set on casters so you can split it in half,
Right.
Mhm.
and shoot and stuff, and build the lights into the.
You build lights into the
Set.
set.
Mhm.
You make.
We eat in the same place every day, and it just makes. We could shoot it in 5 days in a row,
Yeah.
Right.
all at once, and take a week off and do 5 more for the rest. What we didn't get done.
And,
Very nice.
and part of the idea, I think, was run the entire script.
That would be possible, but of
From-
course, when we translate it from the
start to finish every day.
when we translate it from the stage to film, pacing will change, because theater, I've learned, is all about the words.
Right.
It's about
Mhm.
this and this and this. And film, you don't need the words so much.
Mhm.
But yeah, big chunks of it or the whole thing could be played out.
I
one
would
time
love to,
and-
in any way, be
Mhm.
any assistance.
Yeah.
Yeah.
Just to be a fly on the wall.
Yeah,
when it
it
happens.
sounds like
And
a
this,
lot of fun.
in
Yeah.
this such control, we can incorporate other things like having little side shoots that are happening.
Well, there's
and stuff.
just
Yeah.
things you're talking about doing.
Yeah.
Yeah.
That watching them happen can teach us things, can give us ideas on how to do things, and
Mhm.
possibly vice versa.
Yeah.
But
Yeah.
I'd just love to be a fly on the wall on the set, if nothing
Mhm.
else. And then, of course, if you need something, come to us.
Yeah.
And
Yeah.
And just getting this bigger, spanning our web out, getting how many more people can we touch for this project to get more
Right.
people involved in this communal thing. Like, what happens to this set once we're done shooting? We don't
Yeah.
just tear this down.
Where
It's
can
gonna
you
look neat.
preserve it?
Yeah.
Would somebody
Or
want to
I was
preserve
going
it?
to say, is it needed?
Like, not even us wanting to like sell it, but like if somebody just wanted to put it somewhere where people can see it.
Right.
That'd be
It is a piece of the
beautiful.
local film history. It
Yeah.
will become one.
Yeah.
And
Well, getting it out there, building the community, bringing more people into it. It's what the show is all about. It's the use of social network is all about.
Mhm.
Is there a Facebook page for Lights Camera?
Yes, there's a Facebook page for Lights Camera and for Piano Man Pictures.
Okay. Find those Facebook pages. Again, that's Piano Man Pictures and Lights Camera Bullshit. Like those pages. Tell everyone you know to do the same, and tell them to tell everyone they know. It may seem silly, but those little numbers, how many likes a page has, can ultimately make a difference on whether or not Chad Allen Barton raises 2,000 or 20,000. Because there are investors out there that when they do their research, they are looking for those numbers. How many people like this production crew? How many people liked this film page? That can make all of the difference into whether these projects get done or get made. So, find the Piano Man Pictures page. Find the Lights Camera Bullshit page. Eric Huber's going to tell you what pages he wants you to find for him.
Stanley Justice Productions.
Stanley Justice Productions, I
Mhm.
like that. Is it Stan Lee or Stanley?
Stanley.
Stanley with a Y.
With
Okay.
a EY, yep.
Mentioned the comic book fan, I got it checked.
Oh, yeah.
And then, of course, Rising Fire Productions has a Facebook page. There's risingfire.com. We have a Facebook page for In Frame, this show. Tell everybody, get it out there. The more people we have liking this, the more likely we can get some people from out of town and really start to nurture a growth in our industry here in Memphis. One way as filmmakers that we can look to find inspiration for other projects is the independent author scene. We at Rising Fire have been contacted by a couple of people, and we know of a few other independent books that have been given the green light to be developed into film. Among them, my wife has a sister, Melanie Sereni, who wrote a book called The Silent Treatment, which is a mystery. she's asked us to try to put together a sizzle reel to help sell the book and help her to fund the creation of more books as well.
Mhm.
So there's, Melanie Surani, Surani, The Silent Treatment. There are 2 books here that MVP3, which is a company we've done some work with recently, Marie Pisano has signed both of these authors to adapting books to film. And this is War Paint by W.R. Benton, a Western tale involving the Indian nations and things like that. The Hillbilly Bible by Stevie Ray, which is sort of a Gospel of John in Southern hillbilly speak.
Mm.
Kind of an "Oh Brother, Where Art Thou" version of the Bible, I guess. I haven't actually had the chance to get through it yet. And, of course, we were contacted by Kathy Rowe. She has a horror genre novel called The Hall. The setting on this is Ashlar Hall, the castle on Central.
Mm-hmm.
And it's owned by Prince Mongo, who
Yep.
I think if anybody who lives in Memphis understands and knows who Prince Mongo is. And she wants actually to film in the building, in Ashland Hall, to film the film that's set there. So those are, when we run out of ideas, there are a lot of authors out there, independent artists like ourselves, who have stories that we can reach for. So if you're an independent filmmaker, or you want to be, but you don't know how to write a script, or you don't have a good story, turn to your writers. There are writers in town that have short stories, novels, poems, even song lyrics. These can inspire ideas. Turn to your painters for your set work. Turn to your local carpenters for set building. Go to the Memphis College of Art and find people in the programs for textile. Is it still called textile? Dating myself. People that work for clothing. Is it still textiles?
Oh, yeah. Mm-hmm.
And have them make the costumes for your clothes, especially if you're doing science fiction or something period piece.
Mm-hmm.
Get local artists.
Theaters.
Support your local artists,
costumes and
your local
stuff.
theater people. Create a true unity within the community, whether that's here in Memphis or if for some reason someone outside of the Memphis vicinity might be watching us right now. Build it in your community. Our world, our country, needs an artistic revolution. And it is going to be a unity of artists that makes that happen. So, let's help things like the reasons behind lights, camera, bullshit not exist. Let us not have to make movies like that because we don't have those experiences.
Mhm.
Help us make our movies. Help these guys make their movies, like their pages, look for their work, support them, support all of your local filmmakers. Thank you for joining us. We're going to go out with the Kathy... Do we have Kathy Rowe's trailer up there? No? Alright, well, my engineer, Marcus Ken Hampson, is going to pick us something. We're going to go out. Again, thank you for watching the show. See you next week. Bye-bye.